All right.
Hi everyone, Igor Anu here. Welcome to our show for the Adventurous Wine Drinker. And today we're going to have Carignan, or what is this schist all about?
Okay, so that's the name of our show. What is this schist all about?
Yes.
Yeah, what is schist? Other than a very entertaining word to say.
It's a soil type.
Okay.
And it's a soil type that Carignan thrives in, and it thrives in very few soil types and under very few conditions, as we'll jump in. So you want to show the bottle again?
Yeah, let me show it again. So we're tasting, what is this wine called? It's Seben?
Domaine Seben, yeah, is the name of the winery, and Belle Lurette.
Okay.
That's the name of the cuvée, which is a Carignan-based cuvée. 70% old vine Carignan, about 7 years old.
Okay.
And 30% Grenache. So Rhone varietal, and big red wine.
Okay. So mostly Carignan though, right?
Mostly Carignan,
Right.
which is very unusual. Typically in Rhone blends, Grenache and Syrah dominate.
Okay.
Mourvedre is another grape, the GSM, Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre.
Right.
But then they have Cinsault, Carignan. There's like, I think, 7 varietals that have that. So
Quick, find them.
yeah.
Okay, they're here somewhere.
Yeah,
All right.
so
We'll
those are the major types. But a little bit about Carignan. So it's also called Mazuelo or Carignana in Spain.
All right.
And it's a wine that's it has a lot of acidity. It has a lot of bitterness, tannin, color. So, but what it frequently lacks is finesse. So it's a wine that you cannot age too long, or you can't drink too early.
Okay.
So it's definitely not a noble grape, and frequently it does not make wines too much pleasure. Although, for whatever reason, in mid 20th century, the French were drinking a lot of it, and even up to recent history, Languedoc, which is a region that grows a lot of it, Carignan used to dominate the region, but now they're shifting to other varietals like Grenache and Syrah because they find better success with those grapes.
The way you describe Carignan kind of strikes me as like a cranky old man, because you said it's like high acidity, high tannic, but it's like it won't. You can't drink it too early, but it doesn't age. It's like very, very cranky grape.
Yes,
it sounds like.
Well, actually, the funny part about it, when the Carignan becomes an old man, it actually becomes less cranky.
Okay.
Because the few examples of Carignan is when it's old vine.
Okay.
So this year, this one is 70 years old, the cuvée that we have today. But there's a lot of 100-year-old vines.
Okay.
In fact, another place in Languedoc where this wine is from Domaine Lafarge.
Yes.
And he makes 100% Carignan from old vines.
Right.
And that's another excellent example of 100% Carignan. And there's, like I said, very few examples that good.
Right. And so and you kind of alluded to it, this wine is from the Languedoc region in France. And that region is known for producing excellent value wines.
And specifically the town of Fougères.
Okay.
Which we have the map over here. And if you guys could see the green circle right there. So it's Fougères. And what this Fougères town is known for is there's a slogan. It's called the Grand Terroir de Schist. So it's famous for its schist soils.
Okay.
And the town itself, it's on high elevation, so it's high vineyards, and it specializes in Mediterranean varieties, which are Rhone varieties, and it makes big, robust red wines. Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, Carignan. So it's a big, beefy wines, like this example we'll be talking about. So
schist is we're talking about it because it imparts unique flavors on the wine and it has unique characteristics.
Yeah.
Right. So I did read that it kind of holds moisture. Schist holds moisture very well. So if there's limited rainfall, it still keeps the vines moist.
Yes.
But what else is there in terms of?
Well, it's rock.
Right.
So there's several famous regions in the wine world known for schist. Douro Valley, which is obviously famous for port. Long living wine. That's one of the premium wines in the world. The other one is Priorat, which is known for their Grenache. Priorat is probably the most famous region outside of Châteauneuf-du-Pape to make Grenache-based wines, and they're famous for their black slate, which is the same name as schist.
Okay.
And one of the things you were alluding to, it's a rock.
Yes.
So the vine has to struggle through the rock to get to moisture.
Right.
And that frequently, that struggle is leads to these ripe concentrated grapes that produce frequently exceptional wines.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about schist. And Carignan in this particular place is one of the few places where it thrives. And funny enough, the other Carignan that makes spectacular Carignan is Priorat. That's the other place in the wine world that there's few examples of spectacular Carignans.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a pretty cool, I think, overview of the region and a little bit of the grape. And I think we could jump into this cuvee.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about this cuvee for sure. So I know you have a little bit about it, and tell me when you want to taste. Are you tasting it right now?
Yeah, let's taste it right now, and then we'll jump into it.
All right, let's taste it. Well, I had it earlier, and from a tasting notes perspective, I wrote down. I mean, it's definitely full bodied.
Yes,
it's juicy. It's got a lot of kind of wild blackberry fruit, but I think the best flavors are that it's kind of got this spice leather thing going on, just very smooth, very nice, long finish of like spice and leather and fruit. It's very
good. Somebody famous said, bravo.
Who said that? Everybody?
No, Jancis in her review of this wine, she said long, and then she ended with a bravo.
Yeah, she gave it 17 out of 20 points, so super high score. And then Robert Parker gave this wine 92 points, which is really good scores for this,
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's
very
really
nice big red wine. You could have a steak with it. I think that I would serve it with like a bolaise.
Yeah,
it's got a lot of acid structure, which would cut the fat of a rich dish very well. So this is 2015. So not a young wine, but not an old either, and still strong tannic structure. And I opened it an hour and a half ago, and frequently we open the wine maybe half an hour before the show, even the reds. But I thought that this wine needs to open up, and I think by tomorrow it's going to open up even more, and even more fruit is going to shine. That's just my impression of the wine right now. You could decant it, and it would probably go very well.
Yes. So there was a great article written by Jancis Robinson about 3 or 4 months ago about she called it insisting on schist. So she was talking about the Languedoc in general, Fougères specifically, and even more specifically, Brigitte Chevalier.
Yes, she's the winemaker, right?
She's the owner and the winemaker of Domaine Sebene.
Yes, very cool.
So she had a quote. She said, Brigitte Chevalier of Domaine Sebene makes truly superb wine by any measure. Handmade, terroir-dictated wine that has been getting better and better now that she has her own custom-built cellar, instead of using nearby village, rented space in the nearby village. Very beautiful wine. And within the article, Brigitte, she says that she came from Bordeaux. She had her wine experience in Bordeaux, but she wanted to be a pioneer. She didn't want to do what everybody else is doing.
Right.
So she was and I think you have some information about how she was looking for specific sites.
Yes, she was looking for sites specifically with schist. She was interested in schist and its influence on the soil.
Yes.
And she particularly looked for locations that had low yield. Because again, low yield means like less grapes, but definitely sometimes more flavor. So she was looking for kind of a specific plot, kind of an undesired plot, and ultimately she, had this dedication to schist, which I think is, unique.
Yes. And she's making beautiful wines. The vineyards, I think for the most part, surround her winery.
Yes.
So it's a lot of estate fruit, maybe even all estate fruit. That was the great part about it. But there were some kind of negative feedback about the article. So Jancis, she mentioned that when she looked on Wine Searcher, which is a platform where you look for specific wines, that she could only find very few outlets that actually sold the wines of Domaine Sebene, and those who did sell them were older vintages.
Right.
There were new. So she asked Eric Solomon, who's the importer, European Cellars is the name of the importer, why that is the case. So Eric Solomon, in frustration, he responded to her, "The wines are brilliant, but in a strange middle price point.
Yes.
The market here in recent years has not embraced Languedoc wines, except for cheap and not very cheerful candidates." So that was the response. So that's the Eric Solomon. He brings these beautiful wines, but they're hard to sell. That's why they saw so few of them.
That makes sense. I mean, it's $25.99. It's kind of in this price point where people who are looking for cheap wine really want something under $20. But if you're looking for nice wine, you're looking, people just look at price points sometimes as opposed to and I think Languedoc produces a lot of wine that, just is just wine, nothing special.
Yes.
But this is actually, excellent example. So when we say Languedoc, has the opportunity to produce high value wines, it's not everything. You have to find it. It's a gem.
And I've seen the map, so Languedoc is huge. There's a lot of these villages, and I don't know if you were pointing out, Languedoc makes about 5% of all the wine in the world, which is the biggest wine producing region in the world. And a lot of it is bulk, which is, they may produce, that's how, they were making cheap Carignan.
Yes.
That wasn't, they were pulling it from not ideal locations, but they were making quantity instead of quality.
Yes.
And that reputation has followed them to current day. And that's with a lot of regions. So you have these great producers like Domaine Sobene, obviously Domaine Lafarge is another great one. They know these ideal sites to grow grapes, and they make spectacular wines. Our motto in the store is, Domaine Lafarge is the best value winemaker in the whole world.
Yeah.
Because he makes wines below $20 that constantly score 92, 93, 94 points. Nobody else's wines get scores like that. And this wine is a slightly higher price point, but
really good wines.
It's really good wine. And domestically, California doesn't produce that many examples at a 25 point as good as this one.
Yeah.
But I think it's the combination of reputation of the region, and some people don't even know about this region.
Yes. So
they just lean towards the things they know. So it's part of the things where you need to be educated. But unfortunately, as the article kind of alludes to, there's possibility that wines like this are not going to be brought into the U.S. anymore because of this lack of sales. So I think, just to give like an anecdote specifically to these wines. So the article came out in late August, and the article comes out on Saturdays. Jancis writes this article on Saturday. So we did our show. And right before I was going to bed, I saw that Jancis had an article about Domaine Sobene.
Right.
I didn't even get a chance to read the article. I'm like, I'm going to read it the following day.
Right.
Then when we get up the next day, I get a bing that we have an order online. And somebody bought a case of Domaine Sobene wines.
Yes. Yeah.
Then I went to the shop and I have a call waiting for me. And somebody's like, hey, I saw this wine. Do you have this in stock?
Right.
So somebody read this article, they went on Wine Searcher, and guess what they found?
Yeah.
So here's what they found. So this is what Jancis said. She said a few retailers who sell these wines. I think by few she meant one, minus Reverie.
Are we the only one that sells it in the U.S.?
We were the only one who sells it in the U.S.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And we're still the only one who sells in the U.S. And we sell two others. So this we have the Carignan, exactly what we're drinking right now. But we sell the two other cuvées. The Grenache cuvée that you were mentioning, and the Syrah-based cuvée.
And these are both great. So I think the Grenache-based got 92 points, Robert Parker, and 16.5 from Jancis Robinson, and it's $23. And the other one, the Syrah-based cuvée, also
this is
got...
The Syrah-based.
This is I'm holding the wrong one. All right.
Yeah.
That one, again, 90 points, a decanter, 91 points, Robert Parker, and very, very high scores.
17.5 from Jancis.
Yeah,
Extremely high score.
That's a very high score. So
and this is the cheapest of the three cuvées. So it's 23, 24, and 26. They're not that expensive to
I want to
with.
try this one, you guys, the Syrah blend.
So this is the 14 vintage.
Okay.
The 13 vintage was in our wine club. So,
okay.
So a lot of our club members got to experience this spectacular wine.
Very nice. Well, I mean, I think people in our shop buy Lafarge basically by the case, which is the other Languedoc producer. So I think, it's a little bit higher in price point, but, it's still delicious wine. So very good.
So it's fun, and I think the only thing I think is a fun conversation about Carignan, Domaine Sabene. The one thing you actually brought up to me is that a woman makes these wines.
Yes. Yeah.
And I noticed reading Jancis that she highlights a lot of women winemakers.
Yes.
So Bridget is here. We've done other women winemakers. Mm-hmm. David and Nadia, obviously Nadia is a woman. But even in U.S., Kathy Corson, she loves her wines. Mm-hmm. So Kathy Corson makes this beautiful, delicate Cabernet Sauvignon. So I noticed, just kind of my kind of theory, like it's not really based on anything else, is that a lot of these women winemakers, they make these beautiful, delicate wines in the best possible sense. And I frequently, there's a knock about California wines, and I would knock them for that same reason, is that they're over oaked frequently, which highlights the oak, highlights the alcohol.
Lack of subtlety.
Lack of subtlety, yes.
Yes, this wine is very subtle, so that's an interesting kind of take on it. That these women winemakers are very complex wines, very delicately put together flavors. So
it doesn't mean there's plenty of men winemakers that Paul Draper from Ridge, she adores his wines. By many accounts he might be considered the best winemaker in the history of U.S. That's how highly a lot of his wines are thought of. Including her, she constantly gives them high scores. But it's interesting, you see, how she highlights certain soils, certain winemakers, and she highlights their specialty.
Yes.
And the other thing, as we were mentioning, kind of wines like these, they're spectacular. But it's funny, even like in the recession times, what I read when this kind of the whole shelter in place started for a lot of the people, is that people started buying at supermarkets, and supermarkets they have to bring in mass produced wines,
right? Because they have to source it for all of their stores across the nation.
Yes,
so how could you possibly get?
Yes, I just heard a great anecdote just a couple of days ago. That's something I wasn't familiar with. Whole Foods, they used to have I think like I don't know if national or regional program,
right,
where regionally they would buy wines for all their stores. But then the store managers had the flexibility to bring in some custom wines just for their region. But I guess right as this once again the shelter in place started, now the regional level people make all the decisions. Okay. And what that means is basically, once again, they have to have high volume product that they could fit in every single store.
Right.
So there's no choice to bring in more specific, more artisanal wines.
Right. Well, all the more reason to support your local neighborhood wine shops, such as Vinous Reverie, because we can bring in these kind of unique selections that aren't made, in mass. Actually, this winemaker, she produces very small quantities of wine.
Yes.
Of course, she has her plot in like a specific type of area where it doesn't produce that much. So obviously, we end up with very low yield. So it's unique.
It's unique. It's beautiful wine. A grape that rarely produces quality wines, but in her hands, it's exceptional. So that's what we concentrate on, these amazing wines, and I think it's an excellent price point. Like we were saying, it's a 90 plus rating point wine, and if you're looking to compare it to domestic wines, I think more often than not, the domestic wines just do not compete on a value. So this is not an odd price point. This is an excellent price point for the quality that's in the bottle.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed the schist conversation. So.
Right. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We're Vinous Reverie Wine Merchant out in Walnut Creek, California, and this is our show for the adventurous wine drinker. Yeah. And we'll see you guys next Friday. Thanks so much.
See you then, guys.
Drink different is what we said. Yes. All right. Take care. Bye.